Oh boy, this is sure to rub some people up the wrong way. An interesting article here on the motoringchronicle.com basically saying that incentives are needed to convert the electric skeptics to EV benefits. The EV believers, the people who think that EVs are better than petrol and diesel cars, which I know, going off of my comments, there is a lot of people that are very much EV skeptics, that are not fans of electric vehicles. But let's have a look what's been said here, guys. And as always, I will give my thoughts at the end of the video. Full article on the motoringchronicle.com as always. The automotive industry has called on government to act fast to convert Britain's electric skeptics to the benefits of EVs by using purchase incentives to stimulate greater demand. Such measures would boost the market by a further 15% on top of current outlooks, delivering a total of 2 million new EVs by 2028, increasing business for charge points, insurance, maintenance, and other sectors, while drastically reducing road transport emissions. New modelling by the Society of Motor Manufacturers and Traders, SMMT, suggests that under the current market conditions, 1.782 million new EVs will be registered between 2025 and 2027. Growth could be accelerated, however, by halving VAT on new EV purchases, which would drive up demand by a further 15%, putting 267,000 additional new EVs rather than fossil fuel vehicles on the road. This would raise registrations to 2.05 million EVs, all requiring chargers, insurance, maintenance, and energy services, and ultimately increasing supply to the used car market. While such a step would incur a temporary cost to the Treasury, an average of around £1,000 per car, the past 5 years have seen the UK government accrue £2.5 billion VAT receipt windfall as EV uptake has increased tenfold in that time. The measure, which combined with flexible regulation and mandated charge point rollout, would help drive a bigger and cleaner new car market, driving down CO2 emissions by 6 million tonnes per year, equivalent to cutting UK aviation emissions by almost a sixth, and stimulating growth nationwide. Manufacturer investment has enabled a plentiful supply of EVs, with more than 1.3 million now on the roads of the UK. This has been driven by an ever wider choice, with more than 130 EV models now available and an average range of almost 300 miles on a single charge for such new vehicles. Despite this growth, natural demand must still be lifted if the zero emission vehicle mandate, ZEV mandate, are to be achieved. These targets drawn up under more optimistic market conditions, and when energy and raw material costs were expected to fall, they have not, they've risen, and putting huge pressure on the sector, with automotive manufacturers forced to underwrite the transition to the tune of £4.5 billion worth of unsustainable discounting offered by UK buyers last year alone. A new survey by SMMT conducted by Censuswide reveals that 23.1% of would-be new car buyers surveyed plan to go into an electric car between now and 2028, an encouraging base, but well below the government aspiration, which calls for 28% EV market share in 2025 alone, and that is not predicted to increase, but that is expected to increase between now and 28. Furthermore, the survey also suggests that the EV market is highly reliant on drivers who have already gone electric, comprising almost half, 48.7% of respondents, while fewer than 1 in 8, 11.6% of new buyers polled are actively intending to switch to an EV. The positive news from this survey, however, is that the car market could be transformed with government support. Purchase incentives would transform the market, along with greater charge point rollout and reduction in the cost of charging through the VAT would encourage around 2 in 5 consumers to drive electric. This would deliver huge carbon savings and also ensure a vibrant and bigger new car market that increases business for all sectors. So that all sounds very positive, but what do I think of it? Well, I mean, I think in general, VAT should be cut with how things are at the moment, how much sky-high prices are in general. I mean, I'm sure, was it the Tories back in the early 2010s? I think they raised VAT from 17.5% to 20% for, in their own words at the time, whichever government it was, I'm pretty sure it was the Conservatives, but they said, oh, we'll only do this as an emergency measure, and it's been in place for 15 years since then. So yes, VAT should be cut in general for all things. I think that should be definitely something that happens. I'm not going to get too much into politics right now, but basically my thought on it is that we shouldn't be having to, pony up ourselves, the average Joe, John and George in the street. It should be more, the big corporations and the rich people out there, the billionaires that don't pay their tax properly. That's my opinion. But that's a separate issue. Let's put that to the side and let's go back to the EVs for a second. I'm a bit skeptical about all this because at the end of the day, like it says in the article, the incentives that car manufacturers are actually offering in terms of electric vehicles, it's unsustainable. They're losing money, or at least not making as much money as what they would normally. So it's not sustainable. It's not something that can be done long term. So the tap eventually with those cheap EVs, it will be turned off at some point. That's inevitable. But to keep that going, someone's going to have to step in. And I guess it's only ever going to be the government, isn't it, really? So what would happen potentially, I mean, I've touched on this before in some other videos, but what could happen potentially is, if it doesn't happen, is that the take-up in Chinese EVs, which are cheaper and questionable. I mean, people do question them. The safety record of them is apparently quite good in terms of their NCAP rating and stuff like that. But in terms of the cost, which is the thing that people was wanting, they are significantly less than the European and American counterparts that we have here in the UK. So if the cost of all the other cars goes up, and theirs for that matter, which, will happen, then the EVs from China could become the main ones. They could get a bigger market share. Now, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I'm not going to get into that right now. I'm not. But that's just something that's going to happen. So, it might well be the case that the government has to step in for something like this. But it's like, where's the money going to come from? Where's the money? There is no money, apparently, what the government has. That's what they say anyways. That's why we're being taxed up the wazoo for it. So yeah, I'm a bit skeptical about it. What could happen then? I mean, if you do a similar kind of discount to what's already there, effectively you're going to be in the same boat as what you are now from a consumer point of view. Instead of it being the manufacturers, it would be the government that's ponying up for that, making that discount. So nothing changes in that sense. And to actually hit the ZEV mandate targets, they need to lower the prices even more potentially, or do something else to stimulate the growth. Because right now, most car manufacturers are not hitting that target of 25%, I think it was last year. They're not going to hit 28 this year. They're not going to hit 30 next year, whatever the overall percentage is. So I'm a bit skeptical about it all, to be honest. I think more has to be done. But people's perceptions about EVs, unless they've actually owned one and they are hardwired in their kind of ways to not like them, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The only way then to convert them, for lack of a better term, is really to de-incentivize petrol and diesel cars. Maybe they raise the taxes on those, but then that's most people being worse off. So I don't know, man. It's not an easy one to solve. I don't claim to be a politician. I don't claim to be an economist, but something has to change. But it's like, what can they do? What can they do? What do you think they should do? I'm going to turn this to you, dear viewer. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. What would it take for you to buy an EV if you've not already got one? I want to hear what you have to say, because I know people have a lot of opinions about this. There are hundreds and hundreds of comments in previous videos on EVs, and I read most of them, and people are absolutely Marmite on them. They either love them or they hate them, and there's not really an in-between, really. So yeah, two worlds collide, rival nations, basically, at that point. So I want to hear what you have to say about this in the comments below. Like, share, comment, subscribe if you want to see more content like this on themotoringchronicle.com. And yeah, hope you have a fantastic day, guys. See you very soon for some more content right here.